Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this debate on the railway budget. Sir, much has been spoken about the railway budget already by many other senior colleagues of mine in this House. So I will not repeat those points. But however, I will add some points and suggestions from my perspective and my analysis of it.
Next is yours.
So, firstly, the suggestion that the much wanted financial performance of the railways was less than authentic comes as a shock. I have been among those who have written and spoken and waxed eloquently about the performance of the railways over the last 5 years, and have spoken about it on many occasions as a shining example of performance to the high expectations of government entities. Just the recent railway budget had spoken about a cumulative earnings of 90,000 crores in 5 years. The suggestion that this wasn't true must be clarified, and coming as it does in the background of corporate misdemeanors and frauds in the private sector, it raises serious questions. The white paper promised by the Honorable Minister will go a long way in establishing the correct financial and operational picture of the railways. This is vital for the railways to move forward. So, sir, first and foremost, my suggestion to the Honorable Minister is that this white paper be presented in the shortest possible time and be made available in the public domain. I would also suggest an amendment to the Railway Act that makes the Chairman Railway Board and the Member Finance explicitly and statutorily responsible for the financial position of the railways as presented to the Ministry and the Parliament. I would also recommend strongly, sir, that the CAG conduct regular and annual audits of the railways accounts, and that these CAG audits are presented to the Parliament along with the railway papers every year. Sir, the railways is a proud and very important constituent of our national economy. Given its all-pervasive role in the movements of goods and people all around the country, including the most remote and strategic locations. Railways and its freight costs have also an impact on our domestic inflation. It is vital that the railways be put on a path of sustainable growth and a multi-year plan be put into motion. The railways should be used for more than just populism and political point scoring, which unfortunately increasingly it is beginning to look being used for. The most important statement in this budget was the last paragraph of the Honorable Minister's speech, the promise eventually of a Vision 2020. I would urge the Honorable Minister that this document be developed as a strategic development and growth plan for the railways at the earliest, and I would suggest the following points to be included into the Vision 2020. Sir, point number 1, railway track capacity expansion. The railways must remember that they are in the business of hauling freight and passengers, and expanding the railway network must be their preeminent and single-minded focus. The current 60,000 plus kilometers of railway network must be ambitiously and aggressively expanded by at least 50% in the next 5 to 7 years. This is a target that the Honorable Minister must take on and implement with all the energy at her command. This can easily be done just by implementing the track doubling and by implementing the dedicated rail freight corridor. So point number 2, utilization and efficiency improvement. So railways must embark on implementing the latest signaling technologies throughout its entire network. There has been much talk about pilot projects, etc. for the whole of the last 5 years, but a clear plan to upgrade the signaling technology and hence improving the throughput of trains and utilization of the network must be completed and rolled out starting urgently. The current approach of installing various incompatible technologies at various places in the network in an ad hoc manner is clearly not strategic. I look forward to the Honorable Minister's Vision 2020 in addressing this. So the other area of utilization is to enhance track and axle loading. For this, the dedicated high-speed, high-load dedicated freight corridor must be put on the fast track, and design of this freight corridor must be done keeping in mind our requirements for the next 50 years. This dedicated freight corridor will be the single largest rail expansion anywhere in the world except China, and definitely the biggest expansion of the Indian railways since independence. It is an important project for India's aspirations to be an economic superpower, and it will transform India's competitiveness as an exporting and manufacturing hub. So point number 3 for Vision 2020 is project management. So my colleagues have just mentioned it. We all know that the railways is littered with incomplete projects. In my city in Bangalore alone, I know of various railway overbridge and other projects that are small sized but have taken decades to complete, including the famous KR Puram stay bridge that almost took 20 years to complete. There is something very, very wrong in how the railways approves projects, allocates funds and completes them. I strongly urge the Honorable Minister to direct the department to evolve a modern methodology where projects once launched are given the highest priority for funding with a focus on completion of projects rather than the current dispensation where funds are diverted from launch projects to new projects. This is an approach that is costing the people and the railways thousands of crores in terms of overruns and delays. So in short, it is not enough to appoint a dedicated officer to oversee projects as has been mentioned in the budget. The railways must develop a fresh and modern methodology to conceive projects, to manage them, to finance them and complete them. So point number 4 is the customer experience management and enhancement. I won't say too much on this, sir. Much has been already said on this subject in the budget and by my various colleagues. But I want to make one point. It is said that the Indian Railways serves the poor and the needy sections of India. But nowhere is it to be assumed that the poor and the needy sections of India must suffer a poor and unsafe travel experience. The railways must not treat its passengers as anything but valued customers and must step up to the plate and give them a superior customer experience. The Minister has promised this, but I caution her that these kinds of promises have been made repeatedly in the past as well and must be translated into real action. Sir, 2 more minutes. So point number 5 for Vision 2020 is the point of a freight tariff regulator. Sir, we all know that the railways is a monopoly. Being a monopoly brings with it many bad habits, and some have crept into the railways over the past many years and decades. The area of concern today is the setting of freight tariffs and the classification of freight tariffs. While Parliament and the general public is often told that the freight tariffs remain unchanged, the same is sometimes affected by changing classification of items. There is a need to bring in transparency into this. I strongly recommend that an independent freight tariff regulator's office be created that will be responsible for transparently and without favor setting tariffs. So the last point for Vision 2020 is the following, sir. The budget lays considerable stress on PPP, and much has been discussed about PPP in the House as well. Sir, PPP is a good way for the railways to augment its financial capacity, but I would urge extreme caution. The first principle of PPPs must be that the railways must benefit, and this must not be another way to cause disproportionate profits to the private sector. I would urge you to use competent external financial advisors and lawyers from outside to negotiate and structure these PPPs to make them truly balanced and explore the possibility of a dedicated regulatory office in the railways that will be responsible for executing PPPs to make sure they are in favor of the railways.
Please conclude, Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Sir, last point. I'm just finishing. So let me end by reiterating what all my senior colleagues of Karnataka have already stated strongly in both the houses. The investments in my state fall far below on what is being done in other states and can be construed as unfair and discriminatory. We are all people of one nation, and the railways serve the nation and all its people. There is a strong case for relooking at investments in new projects in this budget and ensuring that investments in new projects are done in a more equitable manner so that all states and all people benefit. Sir, in ending, I reiterate that the railways is and will remain for the conceivable future an important and vital part of the complex equation of our economic progress. The railways must structurally be re-architected to meet the challenges of the coming years and not continue the 60-year-old status quo. I hope that despite my being a lone voice of an independent MP in this House, that the Minister and our colleagues take note of the points made and incorporate them into their plans for the railways for this year and the future. Thank you, sir.